I was straight until I fell for my co-star on set. You might recognize my face from the silver screen, but if we rewind the reel of my life a bit, you'll uncover the story of a young man who was light years away from accepting the person I should have been. High school? Me? Well, that was a different universe entirely. Picture this: a young, insecure soul wrapped in the cloak of cruelty. I'll admit it, and I do so with profound shame. I used to be a bully. My target? Anyone I even remotely suspected of being gay. Why? To fit into that toxic mold of what I arrogantly believed was cool. I verbally taunted them, spread rumors, and publicly humiliated them, all to mask my own fear of being different, of being anything other than the tough guy society expected me to be. Back then, I didn't understand the damage I was causing, both to others and to myself. I was lost in a world of misplaced judgment, guided by society's skewed standards of acceptance. It's astounding how the need to conform can blind us to the beauty of diversity. Fast forward to my successful career, where I thought I had it all: fame, fortune, ladies at my beck and call, and relentless desire to bury the past. But my reckoning day came during a press conference for my latest movie. "Richard, your character in the film represents love in its purest form. Can you relate to that?" a reporter asked me. I stood there basking in the flashing cameras and eager reporters, a smug smile on my face. "Oh, absolutely. I really think that love is a beautiful thing, as long as it is between a man and a woman," I replied. I watched as the audience's expressions shift from admiration to shock and then outrage. "Richard, you don't think love transcends gender and should be celebrated in all its forms?" another reporter asked. But I dismissed the question with an arrogant chuckle. "Well, you see, some things are just unnatural." The backlash was swift and brutal. Social media erupted with condemnations. Fans abandoned me in droves, and movie agencies severed their contracts with me. Apparently, as a public figure in this industry, I wasn't supposed to make such homophobic comments. The digital realm was where the tempest raged most fiercely. Social media, once a platform for my fans to express their admiration, had transformed into a battleground of criticism and outrage. My mentions on Twitter and Instagram were filled with hateful messages, condemning memes, and even threats from faceless keyboard warriors who demanded an apology. I was hesitant to give. Each notification on my phone became a dreaded reminder of the consequences of my words. Professionally, I had become a pariah. Movie agencies, once eager to collaborate with me, swiftly terminated our contracts due to the hate from people online swearing that they would never watch a movie I starred in. My promising career had come crashing down, and the calls from agents and producers ceased. One day, my girlfriend Sandra called me. "Hi Richard, I have a big job outside the city and I'll be back in 6 months. It came sudden and they want me to leave immediately," she said over the phone. I heard laughter in the background, but I chose to ignore it. "Well, can we at least talk before you leave? I've missed you," I asked her. No, we really can't be seen together with everything going on with you. I prefer if we don't see each other in a while. You know what I mean," she told me. I heard more laughter and my blood boiled. I couldn't believe it. I knew she was breaking up with me even after everything we had been through together. I thought she loved me, but it turned out she'd been using me all along, and now that I was in this deep mess, she decided to run. "Are you breaking up with me?" I asked her just to be sure, but she didn't respond. She ended the call and sent me a message saying that she was busy and we would talk later. To save my career, my manager Ben came up with what I considered a crazy idea: star in a movie featuring 2 gay men. I couldn't believe my ears. Who would have believed it anyway? But Ben kept pushing for it. It made me angry to think he was doing all of this for his own personal gains. But then, what could I do? My reluctance stemmed on not only from fear, but also from the weight of my past action. Those I had bullied, the lives I had made miserable, their faces flashed before my eyes, and here I was about to play a gay character on screen. A role that felt like the universe's way of forcing me to atone for my sins. I absolutely hated the idea of having to act gay. As the days leading up to the first day of shooting ticked away, that gnawing sense of dread grew stronger. I could not escape the thought that this role would somehow expose my own hypocrisy, dragging my past into the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny. I questioned myself relentlessly. Would my performance be seen as a sincere attempt to salvage my career? Ben and I walked down the venue for the first shoot together, and he stopped at the entrance. "Look, all you need to do is just pretend, okay? In a few months, you'll be done shooting, and we'll get back in business," Ben told me, with his trademark confidence. I sighed, still uncertain about this risky move. "Are you sure this is going to work?" I asked, seeking some reassurance. "They don't call me Benny Brains for nothing, Richard," he replied with a smirk. "Just do as I say and don't go making faces on set. The last thing we need is a paparazzi taking photos of you being disgusted To act on set. That would be disastrous. His words hung in the air, and I knew he was right. The last thing I needed was a tabloid frenzy over my expressions on set. My career was teetering on the edge, and I had to trust Ben's plan no matter how uncomfortable it made me. Okay, Ben, I replied, resigning myself to the path I had reluctantly chosen. I'll do it. The first day on set was nerve-wracking. As I walked onto the soundstage, I couldn't help but feel a rush of anxiety. I kept reminding myself that this was all just acting, that I was merely playing a character. I looked around at the crew members and I realized that they saw this project as a chance to make a difference. To them was an opportunity to break barriers and challenge stereotypes. I felt like a fraud. With each passing moment, I questioned whether I was doing justice to the LGBTQ+ community or if I was just simply exploiting their struggles for my own gain. But as the camera started rolling, I pushed those doubts aside. I had a role to play, a character to inhabit. I forced myself to focus on the script, on the emotions I needed to convey. However, everything changed when I met Lewis, who was the co-star. He was like a breath of fresh air in my life, a stark contrast to everything I thought I knew about myself. In Lewis, I found a friend, a mentor, and ultimately the person who would help me become a better version of myself. Lewis was not just incredibly handsome, but he had this aura of confidence that drew people toward him. His smile could light up the darkest room, and his laughter was infectious. He was smart, witty, and had this uncanny ability to make everyone around him feel at ease. At first, I couldn't help but vent my frustrations to him about having to act out all those gay scenes. I thought he might understand my discomfort, but little did I know the profound impact he would have on my life. I'll never forget the countless times Lewis went out of his way to make me feel comfortable and welcome. He sensed my initial discomfort with the gay scenes, and instead of judging me, he offered a supportive hand. Lewis was a great listener. He never interrupted or rushed through conversations when we talked. It felt like the world outside faded away, and it was just the two of us sharing our thoughts and dreams. He had an incredible sense of humor, too. Our conversations were often punctuated by his witty remarks and infectious laughter. He could turn the dullest moments into a riot of giggles, and for the first time in a long while, I found myself laughing freely. There were times when I'd catch him looking out for me, ensuring that I felt comfortable during intimate scenes, or checking in with me between takes. It was as if he had an intuitive sense of what I needed, and he was there to provide it without hesitation. Lewis's kindness extended beyond the set. He introduced me to his friends, and they welcomed me with open arms. They were all a part of a diverse, accepting community, and being around them slowly helped me shed my prejudices. But there was another emotion creeping in that I couldn't ignore: jealousy. I couldn't help but feel a pang of envy when I watched Lewis act out an intimate scene with another male character. It was then that I started to realize that my feelings for Lewis were evolving into something more profound than just friendship. As I stood there hidden behind the camera, watching the two of them, I couldn't shake the jealousy that gnawed at my insides. It wasn't just acting for me anymore, and I was left grappling with emotions I had never allowed myself to explore. Lewis, however, remained professional. One evening, while Lewis and I were done with a scene, we sat outside enjoying the cool breeze, and I stared at him for longer than normal. "You never talk about your family," I told him. Lewis frowned but replaced it with a smile and sighed deeply. "You know, we only have one life to live, and it's important that we make the most of every moment. When my father found out I was gay, he was devastated, but I've never been afraid to own who I am." "So what happened?" I asked. "He disowned me. I haven't spoken to him in over 10 years. He is my only family. My mom and my sister passed away 6 years ago. They were the ones that accepted me regardless." At that moment, I wanted to give Lewis a hug and tell him I could be his family if he wanted, but I didn't know how he would respond. I had to be professional. "So, are you still homophobic?" Lewis asked me. I don't know," I replied. "Let me know when you have the answer," he said, and left. Months rolled by and I was slowly getting back my mojo. Apparently, Ben's plans were actually working, but now I didn't see it as a plan. I enjoyed it. Ben asked me to meet at the bar, where he sounded really excited. When I got there, I saw him with two men I recognized from the last agency I worked with, the same one that was quick to call it quits and stop working with me. Can you believe it? There's a new movie and they're offering you the lead character. What do you think about it? I mean, you don't have to say anything now, but there's a load of cash that comes with this. I thought about it for a few seconds. The offer sounded really tempting. "I'm not interested," I finally said. Ben laughed and dragged me outside. "Are you nuts? This is huge. Is this what you wanted?" "Well, yes, but I want to finish what I started." "Look, we can just give them a call. They'll make something up. They can even pretend your character had plastic surgery," Ben suggested. but I shook my head. I'm not interested, Ben. That's final. Is this about Lewis? Ben inquired, just as I was about to leave. I stopped in my tracks, wondering how he even knew about it. Yes, Lewis was part of the reasons I refused to take the new role, but I actually liked being on set with my new friends. They told me about their stories, and I found myself falling in love with their minds. They were not afraid to talk about their strengths and weaknesses, and I respected them for that. I used to think queer people were weak and scared, but I found out that there is so much more. To even openly own who you are. They were the strongest people. Leave Lewis out of this, I told Ben, and without another word, I walked away. 3 days later, we were shooting one of the most emotionally charged scenes of the movie. A moment that required Lewis and I to share a passionate kiss. Our lips gently brushed against each other, and in that moment, it was as if time had slowed down, allowing me to savor every millisecond of that kiss. My heart, which had been racing with nervousness, suddenly beat in sync with his. I could feel the warmth of his breath against my lips, and it sent shivers down my spine. When the director called cut and the scene was over, I stood there, trembling. Lewis, his eyes locked onto mine, seemed equally affected. We both knew something had shifted, something powerful and undeniable. I paced back and forth in my trailer, my heart racing like a runaway train. What was happening to me? I had always been so sure of who I was, so confident in my beliefs, but now everything was spiraling out of control. I walked in restless circles. I had come to this movie set with the intention of saving my career, of playing a role to please others, but now I was entangled in a web of feelings I couldn't escape. Images of Lewis flashed before my eyes. His smile, his laughter, the way his eyes lit up when we shared a joke. I couldn't deny it any longer. I was falling for him, and it was more than just a simple crush. It was something deep and profound, something that left me breathless and bewildered. I knew I had to talk to Lewis. I had to confess these feelings that had taken over me. I knocked on his trailer door, my heart pounding louder with each passing second. When he opened the door, those familiar twinkling eyes met mine, and I felt like I was drowning in them. Lewis, I began, my voice shaky. I think I have the answer to your question now. My words stumbled out. A jumble of nerves and my smile was more than enough to tell him what I wanted to say. Lewis motioned for me to come in, and as soon as I stepped inside, he grabbed me and pulled me into a deep, passionate kiss. As we finally broke the kiss, our foreheads rested against each other, and our breaths mingled in the small space. Finally, Lewis whispered, his voice filled with longing. I couldn't find the words to respond. Instead, I pulled him close, sealing our connection with another kiss. The doubts and fears that had haunted me moments ago seemed to fade away in the warmth of Lewis's embrace. Lewis and I started dating secretly. I told him I needed time to fully come out, and he was completely understanding about it. He told me to take my time, but not too much time, as he wanted to show off his handsome boyfriend to the world. He reminded me of his mantra, we only had one life to live, and it was important to make the most of it. Our secret rendezvous began with furtive glances and stolen smiles on the movie set. During breaks and filming, when the crew wasn't looking, Lewis would slip his hand into mine, and we'd share a quick affectionate squeezes. Our first secret date took place in a cozy cafe tucked away from the streets of Hollywood. Lewis and I would sneak out of our respective trailers and meet there, hoping no one would recognize us. We'd sit in a secluded corner, sipping on lattes and sharing hustled laughter as we talked about everything and nothing. Lewis's eyes would sparkle with mischief, and I couldn't help but be captivated by his wit and charm. I found myself falling in love a little more with each passing word. One chilly evening, as we strolled down the empty beach, Lewis took my hand and pulled me into a spontaneous dance. We swayed together in the moonlight, the ocean waves providing a background symphony to our clandestine romance. I knew I was falling for him hard. We'd exchanged secret notes, hidden in the pockets of our movie costumes, or tucked into the pages of a script. These little love letters were filled with promises of a future together, a future we both desperately hoped for. I particularly enjoyed binge-watching classic romantic movies in the comfort of Lewis's trailer. We'd cuddle under a blanket sharing popcorn and watching tales of love and longing on a small screen. And the night would end with us in sweaty bodies and heavy breaths. However, Ben soon confirmed his initial suspicions about Lewis and I. He had confronted Lewis, and Lewis told him it was true. I couldn't even get angry at Lewis. Maybe this was his first step to accepting who I was. Ben called me out and gave me a lecture on how this would affect my career, and how it may be bad for business. Why did it always have to be about my career? What about me? I was always doing things because my career demanded it, but at what cost? Later that day, Lewis, I completed our final scenes for the movie. We met outside. I don't want to be your hidden romance anymore, Richard. I know, I said. You can take your time, but every time I can't hold you in public is like torture, Lewis said. I know, I'm putting everything together, I lied. In reality, I was worried. I loved Lewis, but I didn't know how to do this. I was scared about a lot of things, and Ben's words weighed heavily in my mind. Do you love me? I need to know if I mean anything to you, or if you're just using me to pass time. I need to know, Lewis told me. I love you, Lewis, and I never want you to doubt that. But I just need more time, I responded. We only have one life, Richard, Lewis said as he held my hand. A group of people who worked on the set walked past us, and I quickly removed my hand from his. Lewis looked at me with disbelief and got up. Let me know what you choose, he said, anger evident in his voice, and left. I spent the evening thinking about how to make things right and show Lewis that I was serious about our relationship. I knew it would take some time, but I wanted to be ready. The night of our movie premiere was a dazzling spectacle with flashing cameras. I confidently strode down the red carpet, and the world's eyes bore unto me, waiting for a chink in my armor. Ben walked beside me, smiling and waving to everyone. I even saw Sandra with some of her friends I had met before. She looked as beautiful as ever in her red see-through dress, but now I didn't feel anything for her. As I was about to meet Lewis, a journalist sharp and unrelenting seized the opportunity to puncture the facade I had painstakingly constructed. Are you and Lewis more than just co-stars? The reporter's questions hung in the air, a weighted pause before the storm. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. My palms became slick with sweat, and panic coiled around me like a relentless serpent. I stole a furtive glance at Lewis, who stood just a few steps away. Many of the crew members on set confirmed your electrifying chemistry, both on and off the screen. Should the ladies be worried, or is it just a casual bromance? The reporter's voice cut through the tension, leaving me with an impossible choice. Without thinking, I let out the fabricated words that would forever alter the course of our history. No, Lewis and I were merely playing our roles all along. The devastation that swept over Lewis's face was unmistakable. In that agonizing moment, I wished desperately to snatch back my words, to rewrite our narrative. Ben flashed me an encouraging smile and a thumbs up, but it was no consolation. I wanted the earth to split open and swallow me whole. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he struggled to hold back the tide of humiliation and heartache. And then, in the midst of his silent suffering, I delivered another crushing blow, and soon, the words just poured from my mouth. We can't be together. I'm still very much a ladies' man. Lewis is an amazing friend, and he made it so easy for me on set. I really think everyone needs a friend like Lewis, I confessed, the weight of my words settling like an anchor in my chest. Lewis's avoidance of me that night was both expected and justified. I could see the hurt in his eyes as he distanced himself. Sandra, my ex, showered me with unnecessary attention after finding out the success of the movie, but I brushed her off, no longer interested in rekindling a relationship that had long burned out. Ben interrupted like he always did. He told me that Sandra was a sensation, and that we would look great together on the red carpet. Look, we need enough proof to dispel the rumors about your sexuality, you know? He whispered into my ears. I stared at him in shock. So you're going to that red carpet with Sandra and you're going to take hot pictures together. Give the media something to talk about, he continued, patting me on the shoulder. I took more shots of alcohol than I would have normally take, and I did as Ben said. Sandra was more than happy to pretend, even though she went ahead to tell some reporters we had gotten back together. Lewis and I were to take pictures together, but he was nowhere in sight. Later I found out that he had gone home due to a stomachache. A flimsy excuse, I knew, to be false, but what could I do about it? Instead, I forced a smile and carried on with the charade, pretending to be happy in front of the cameras, all the while nursing the guilt and regret that consumed me. As I returned home that night, I was met with an unexpected and heart-wrenching sight. There, beneath the flickering lamplight, was Lewis, his forlorn figure silhouetted against the darkness. Tears flowed unabashedly down his cheeks. The air was thick with the tension of emotions left unspoken for too long. Lewis, the once love of my life, stood before me, a broken man. I couldn't deny that I was the architect of his pain, the curator of his humiliation. You and your ex are back together? He asked me. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Do you even love me like you said you did? He probed further. Look, I'm sorry, Lewis, but we can't be together. It could never work, I told him, and I watched as the last remnants of hope crumbled within him. I would drop everything for you, Richard. I would leave my career behind for you. I don't care about what people say. People will always talk. I love you, I won't beg you to be with me, Lewis said finally. I'm sorry, I told him, and that was the last I heard from him in months. After our breakup, I battled my inner demons relentlessly, struggling to come to terms with the fact that I couldn't move on from my feelings for Lewis. I kept a silent watch on his life from a distance, closely following both his personal and professional journey, all the while carrying a heavy heart. I tried to reach out to him, but I never found the right words. Meanwhile, I continued to pursue my acting career, but it felt like a hollow endeavor. Directors urged me to portray passion and romance on screen, but every attempt felt contrived and artificial. The chemistry I had once effortlessly shared with my co-stars had dissipated along with my happiness, leaving me feeling like a mere shadow of the actor I once was. Sandra tried to get back together with me, but I shunned her and wanted her never to come near me again. Ben, my loyal manager, who had stood by me through thick and thin, was growing increasingly impatient with my struggles. I knew that his unwavering support was waning, and I feared that sooner or later he might choose to leave my side as well, leaving me with the haunting prospect of solitude in both my personal and professional life. 7 months dragged on, and then I received a letter from Lewis, its pages marred by the traces of my countless tears. In the letter, he confessed his enduring love for me, but also said his goodbyes, revealing that he was relocating far away. The next day, because he couldn't bear the pain of knowing we were in the same city, but he couldn't be with each other. The news shattered me, as I realized that I may lose the person I love more than anyone else, possibly forever. In that crucial moment, I summoned the strength to make a life-altering choice. I decided it was time to reveal my true self to the world. Weeks earlier, through the efforts of a private investigator I had enlisted, I managed to find a way to reach out to Lewis's father. When he heard from me, he was taken aback. Understandably so. Still, I didn't mince words. I shared with him the beautiful aspects of Lewis's career, the kindness, the love, and how he had grown into a remarkable man. Lewis's father, Peter, was quiet for a while. He told me that he was scared to talk to Lewis after so many years. He didn't know how to apologize because he felt his son hated him. We have to do this now, Peter. We won't have another chance to do this if Lewis leaves, I convinced Peter. Okay, so let's do this, Peter replied. So I made a plan. Crafting a heartfelt tweet, I poured my heart out, openly sharing my authentic sexuality and expressing a deep regret for my past actions. My ultimate goal was to regain the love and respect of Lewis, the person who had captured my heart. Social media went wild, but I couldn't care less. My phone rang incessantly with Ben, among others, trying to reach me, but I refused to answer. This was the moment when I seized control of my own life, determined to steer it in the direction that truly mattered. I only wanted to talk to one person. After what felt like an eternity, I heard Lewis's voice on the other end of the line. He was stunned, struggling to find the right words. With all the sincerity in my heart, I begged him for one more chance, assuring them that I was no longer hiding our love in shame. He was right. Life was too short to deny who we were, and I wanted to embrace our love fully. I told him about a wonderful surprise we had prepared for him. Both his father Peter and I were waiting eagerly, hoping that his moment would mark a beautiful turning point in our lives, filled with love and acceptance. Our journey towards reconciliation was so close, almost within our grasp, when the cruel hand of fate intervened in the cruelest way. Peter and I had been waiting outside. Then, like a scene from a fleeting dream, I saw him, Lewis, running towards us with an infectious, carefree joy in his eyes. He was so caught up in the moment, so utterly and beautifully happy. The serenity of that moment was cruelly shattered by a single thunderous impact. In an instant, the world transformed into a nightmare. A deafening crash tore through the peace like a primal scream, and time seemed to slow to a crawl. My heart clenched in dread as I turned to face the unimaginable scene unfolding before us. A terrible accident, unforeseen and merciless, stole Lewis away from me, leaving my heart shattered and my life plunged into a deep, unfathomable sorrow. The irony of fate and the cruel, relentless passage of time tormented me. With a pain that felt unbearable, Lewis, who had once been the sun that illuminated my world, was gone. Lewis's words rang in my head non-stop. We only had one life to live, and it was important to make the most of it. Conclusion. After Lewis's death, I quit acting. I blamed myself for his death and had to go to therapy for a while. In Lewis's memory, I channeled my grief into a profound commitment to LGBTQ+ advocacy. This was my way of seeking redemption for the past mistakes and preserving the love that we had shared. I poured my heart and soul into this cause, tirelessly working to make the world a better place for those who, like us, had faced their share of struggles and discrimination. Every step I took in this journey was a tribute to Lewis, a way of ensuring that his spirit lived on, and that our love, though tragically cut short, would continue to inspire and heal the lives of others in need. As for Peter, I made sure I treated him like my own father. Lewis would have wanted that. The end. Do you think Lewis should have forgiven Richard after he publicly denied their relationship at the movie premiere? What would you have done differently if you were in Richard or Lewis's shoes? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.